The desert was silent. Not the silence of peace, but the silence after an earthquake, when the dust still hangs in the air, when the ground still shakes faintly, when the living are too stunned to speak. The wolf titan was gone. Its ashes drifted into the night wind, glowing faintly like embers, vanishing into the void above the desert. The pyramid's golden beam had dimmed, its brilliance exhausted, leaving only the faint glow of the stars. But the man who had ended it, Omar, was barely clinging to life. The soldiers carried him across the sands, their uniforms torn, their faces blackened with soot and blood. They had lost men, too many. Some still lay buried under dunes, crushed by the Titan's fury. Others had been swallowed whole, erased from the earth. But Omar had given them something no army had achieved before. A Titan had fallen. The Egyptian commander, Major Karim, marched beside the wounded warrior. His jaw was tight, his eyes wet but hardened. Every step felt heavier as he watched Omar's body sway between the arms of the soldiers. The golden spear was still clutched in his hand, glowing faintly like a living flame. Karim whispered, almost to himself, "You've done the impossible, brother, but at what cost?" They reached the temporary outpost, a cluster of tents half buried in the dunes. Floodlights flickered weakly, powered by dying generators. Medics rushed forward, but when they saw Omar's condition, they froze. No normal man could survive wounds like his. His chest was torn open, ribs cracked, muscles shredded. His skin was scorched with black fire, as if the Titan's hatred had marked him forever. Yet he still breathed. The medics began working desperately, but Omar's hand shot out, gripping Karim's arm with unnatural strength. "Don't waste time," Omar rasped, blood dripping from his lips. "The Titan, it's not the last. Others will come. Stronger." His eyes burned, not with life, but with warning. Karim leaned in close, forcing his voice to remain steady. "Then we'll fight them, Omar. With you leading us." Omar's grip loosened. His head dropped back onto the stretcher. His voice was a whisper now, barely audible. "You don't understand. I wasn't strong enough. Not alone. Humanity must rise together." And then he went silent. The camp plunged into chaos. Medics fought to keep Omar alive, while soldiers argued about the meaning of his words. Some believed it was over, that killing one Titan had broken their enemy's will. Others, hardened by what they had seen, believed the opposite. The fall of one Titan would only provoke more. Fear spread like poison. One soldier, barely more than a boy, shouted, "If one man can kill a Titan, then why do we need armies? Why should we die when only Omar can fight?" Another snapped back, "Because Omar is dying right now, fool. If he falls, what's left of us?" Voices clashed, anger boiled, despair rose. The victory they had bled for was crumbling into doubt. Karim slammed his fist against the steel wall of a tent, silencing them. His voice cut through the night like a blade. "Listen well. Omar gave us more than victory. He gave us proof. Proof that Titans bleed. Proof that they can die. And if one man can do it, then so can we. Humanity isn't finished, it's only beginning." The soldiers stood frozen, their breaths ragged, but a fire lit in their eyes. Far away, beyond the desert, something stirred. In the ruins of an old city, buried in darkness, a sound echoed. Not a roar, not a cry, something older, deeper. A call. The wolf titan's death had not gone unnoticed. And in the black silence, another pair of eyes opened. Eyes that had slept for centuries. Eyes that now burned with hunger. Back in the camp, the medics worked frantically. Omar's pulse was weak, his breathing shallow. But the spear he clutched pulsed faintly with light, as if feeding him, keeping him tethered to life. One of the medics whispered to Karim, "This isn't natural. No man should still be alive." Karim looked at the weapon, its golden glow reflecting in his eyes. "That's no weapon. That's a covenant. The ancients built it for this war. And now Omar has become part of it." The medic swallowed hard. "Then, if he dies, will the weapon die too?" Karim didn't answer. He didn't know. But deep in his heart, he feared Omar's battle was only the beginning. That night, As soldiers buried their dead under the desert sands, Kareem stood watch outside Omar's tent. The stars above were sharp, endless, merciless. He clenched his fists, feeling the weight of command pressing harder than ever. He whispered into the night, "Rest, brother, but don't you dare leave us. Humanity still needs its lion." And in the darkness, the faint glow of the spear pulsed again, like a heartbeat. The desert never slept. Even after the death of the wolf titan, the sands whispered with unease. Every grain carried memory. Every gust of wind carried fear. The Egyptian camp stood like a scar upon the battlefield, its tents flickering under weak electric lights, its soldiers whispering of ghosts and monsters. Inside the command tent, maps were spread across a steel table. Dotted lines marked positions of patrols, supply routes, and ruins yet unexplored. But what caught every eye were the red circles, locations of possible Titan disturbances. There were too many. Major Kareem leaned over the maps, his face lined with exhaustion. His voice was steady, but inside, he carried the weight of nations. Reports from Sinai, from the Sahara, from Luxor. Sightings of shadows larger than buildings, tremors felt for miles. "Gentlemen, we killed one Titan, but the earth is moving again. They're waking." The officers exchanged uneasy glances. One finally spoke. "Then Egypt is only the beginning." Kareem's jaw tightened. "Yes. And if Omar is our only weapon, then humanity is already lost." But Omar was not dead. In the medical tent, his body lay strapped to a reinforced bed. Tubes carried blood into him. Others drained black venom like ichor from wounds that refused to close. His chest rose and fell unevenly, his breaths rattling like stones grinding in his throat. The golden spear rested beside him, pulsing with light. The glow spread faintly across his veins, keeping him tethered to the world. Nurse Amina, the youngest medic, sat beside him. Her hands trembled, but her voice remained soft as she whispered, "You fought like a god, Omar. But you're still human. Please stay human. Don't leave us." For a moment, his fingers twitched. His lips moved, a whisper carried on broken breath. "Humanity must rise." Amina's eyes widened. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but she leaned close, whispering fiercely, "Then rise with us. You don't get to die yet." That night, scouts returned from the south. Their faces were pale, their voices shaking. One soldier stammered, "We saw it. In the dunes, near Aswan. Not a wolf. Bigger. Taller. Its body was molten, like walking fire. It didn't attack, but it knew we were there. It watched us." The officers erupted in argument, voices clashing in fear. Kareem silenced them with a roar. "Enough. Fear won't save us. Strategy will. We prepare defenses. We train. We use what Omar showed us. Titans can bleed. Titans can fall." But even as he spoke, he knew they were not ready. Not without Omar. Outside the camp, the desert shifted unnaturally. A shadow slithered across the dunes, vast, monstrous, silent. It paused at the edge of the camp lights, eyes glowing faintly, then disappeared back into the black. No one saw it. No one knew. But the Titans were watching. At dawn, the soldiers gathered around a makeshift pyre. The dead from the Wolf Titans battle were laid out, their faces covered, their weapons placed upon their chests. The flames lit the desert, smoke rising like a pillar to the gods. Kareem stood at the front, his voice thunderous but heavy with grief. They gave their lives for something greater. They proved humanity is not prey. They are our shield, our courage, our proof that we will not break. The soldiers pounded their chests, a deep unified sound that echoed across the sands. But among them, fear still lingered. If Omar fell, would they still have hope? Deep underground, in chambers forgotten by time, the Titan stirred. The Wolf Titan's death was not silence, it was a signal. A chain reaction. Eyes opened in darkness. Claws scraped against stone. Ancient breaths rumbled like earthquakes. And one voice, deeper than the earth itself, spoke into the void. They awaken the war. Then we shall remind them who rules the dust of this world. Back in camp, Omar's pulse suddenly spiked. His body convulsed, medics rushing to hold him down. The spear beside him glowed like a sun, flooding the tent with golden light. His back arched, his mouth opened in a silent scream. Amina shouted, "He's rejecting something. Or something is trying to take him." Kareem burst into the tent, eyes widening at the sight. Omar's body was glowing from within, hieroglyphs burning across his chest and arms, etched in living fire. The spear pulsed again, harder this time. Omar's eyes shot open, glowing gold. He gasped, his voice layered, human and something more. "They are coming." The tent shook. The desert trembled. And for the first time since the Wolf Titan's death, every soldier in camp knew the truth. This war had only just begun. The camp had become a fortress overnight. Floodlights mounted on trucks cut through the desert night. Anti-air guns, old and rusted, were dragged out of storage and mounted at the camp's perimeter. Soldiers dug trenches into the dunes, their shovels scraping against ancient sand. Cairo's high command had sent orders: hold the desert at all costs. But every soldier knew the truth. If another Titan came, trenches and rusted guns wouldn't save them. All eyes turned to the medical tent, where Omar, the man who killed the Titan, now lay glowing like a furnace. Inside, the air was thick with heat. The golden spear pulsed steadily, each beat sinking with Omar's chest. His body writhed with energy. Symbols, hieroglyphs older than any pyramid, glowed across his skin, written in fire. Nurse Amina held his hand tightly, whispering prayers through clenched teeth. Sweat dripped down her face, but she refused to let go. Suddenly, his breathing steadied. His body stilled. His eyes opened. But they were no longer the eyes of a man. They burned with golden fire. Kareem rushed forward, his hand gripping his holster out of instinct, but Omar's voice froze him in place. It was still Omar's voice, but deeper, layered, as if the desert itself spoke through him. "The Covenant is awake. The spear remembers. And now so do I." Kareem's throat tightened. "You're not making sense. What are you saying, brother?" Omar sat up, his muscles trembling, but alive. The glow across his chest dimmed, fading into scars that looked carved rather than burned. His gaze locked onto Kareem, sharp and unshakable. "I saw them. In the dark. The Titans. They are not beasts. They are kings of an older war. They ruled before pyramids rose. And now they rise again because humanity dared to defy them." Kareem swallowed hard. "Then tell me, how do we stop them?" Omar gripped the spear, lifting it with ease. Its glow flared, illuminating the entire tent. "By reminding them, humanity bends to no one." Word spread quickly through the camp. Omar was awake. The soldiers gathered outside the tent, their fear tempered by awe. They watched him emerge, spear in hand, his body scarred, his presence overwhelming. He wasn't just a man anymore. He was a symbol. A soldier whispered, trembling, "He looks like the pharaoh's returned." Another muttered, "No, stronger." Omar scanned the faces, young, broken, desperate. He raised the spear high. Its light cascaded across the camp, bathing them in gold. His voice rang out, "You've seen death. You've buried brothers. You've faced gods of stone and Fang. And you still stand. That is humanity's strength. Titans may rule the past, but the future belongs to us." The camp erupted, fists raised, voices shouting in unison. Fear turned into fire. For the first time since the Wolf Titan's fall, the soldiers believed. But belief was not enough. Scouts returned, their armored vehicle covered in scorch marks. Their faces were pale, their eyes wide with terror. Kareem pulled the leader aside. "What did you see?" The man's voice cracked. "Not a wolf. Bigger. A giant of fire. Its skin molten rock. Its eyes were like suns. It walked through Aswan like it was nothing. The city is ash." The camp went silent. Then Omar spoke, calm but sharp. "It's moving north, toward Cairo." Kareem stiffened. Cairo wasn't just a city. It was humanity's beating heart. If it fell, the world would fall with it. That night, Omar stood alone at the edge of camp, staring south into the endless black. The desert wind howled, carrying with it a faint scent of smoke, distant but growing. Amina approached, her footsteps soft. "You shouldn't be out here. You're still healing." Omar's jaw tightened. "The spear heals me. But healing isn't enough. I need strength." She studied him, her eyes filled with both fear and faith. "You're still human, Omar. Don't let this thing, whatever it is, consume you." His gaze softened, just for a moment. "Human is the only thing I'll ever be. That's why I fight." Far away, in the ruins of Aswan, the fire titan walked. Its body was a living volcano, veins glowing with molten light, every step turning streets into rivers of lava. Buildings melted like wax in its presence. Its roar shook the Nile, sending waves crashing against its banks. And yet, its eyes were not mindless. They burned with purpose. It was not hunting blindly. It was marching to Cairo. At dawn, Omar gathered the soldiers. His voice was steady, his spear burning with power. "The fire titan is coming. If it reaches Cairo, millions die. If we stand here and wait, we lose everything. We take the fight to it before it reaches the city." Kareem stepped forward, his voice hard. "That's suicide. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and we don't even know if you can face it alone." Omar turned, his eyes blazing. "Then don't let me face it alone. You think the wolf titan fell because of me? No, it fell because of all of us. Because humanity fights together. That's our strength." The soldiers looked at one another. Fear warred with duty. Then one by one, they stepped forward, voices rising. "With you, with you, with you." The desert echoed with their oath. The march began at sunrise. Trucks roared across the dunes, dust clouds rising behind them. Tanks rumbled forward, their cannons loaded with shells scavenged from old stockpiles. Drones buzzed overhead, feeding live images back to the command tent. And at the front walked Omar, spear in hand, his silhouette cutting against the rising sun. The Lion of Egypt was no longer just a man. He was the spearhead of humanity. As the convoy crossed the desert, Kareem leaned from his command truck, shouting over the roar of engines. "If we die today, remember this. Humanity does not kneel. Not to wolves. Not to fire. Not to gods." The soldiers roared back, their voices shaking the desert. Omar's grip tightened on the spear. He could already feel it, the heat rising in the air, the tremor in the ground, the shadow of something vast waiting beyond the horizon. The fire titan was coming, and humanity was marching to meet it. The convoy rolled into silence. The further south they drove, the more the land itself betrayed them. Villages lay abandoned, homes burned to skeletons. Date palms stood as blackened stumps. The Nile ran red, not with blood, but with rust and ash, its waters boiling faintly from heat carried upstream. The soldiers fell quiet, the engines their only voice. Even Kareem's commands turned into whispers, as though speech itself felt sacrilegious in this dead land. At last, the convoy halted. Before them stretched the ruins of Aswan, a city no longer. The skyline glowed faintly, molten rivers carving streets into glowing veins. Entire buildings had collapsed into slag heaps. The dam was gone, burst open like a cracked skull, its remains jutting into the Nile. And in the center of it all, looming, breathing, waiting, stood the fire titan. Its body was living magma, its chest rising and falling like a mountain alive. Every movement sent tremors rippling across the sand. It stood taller than the wolf titan, its form less beast, more god, an ancient colossus wrapped in flame. And it had seen them. Its head turned, molten eyes locking onto the convoy. The desert itself seemed to recoil. Omar stepped forward, spear in hand. His skin burned under the heat even from this distance, sweat pouring in rivers. But his stance never wavered. "Soldiers of Egypt." His voice cut through the choking air. "You wanted proof of gods? Look upon it. A god that burns cities, that devours the living. But today we remind the heavens. Humanity bows to no one." The soldiers answered with a roar. Their fear was still there, but Omar's fire dwarfed it. Kareem raised his rifle high. Forward positions. Anti-tank emplacements. Dig in. Air teams, eyes on the sky. Engines screamed as tanks rolled into formation. Machine guns mounted. Rockets loaded. And yet every man knew their weapons were pebbles against a mountain of fire. The Titan moved. Its first step shook the earth. Asphalt cracked like glass. Sand geysered upward. With each stride, its molten skin shed droplets of fire that ignited anything they touched. It was less a creature, more a walking apocalypse. Fire. Kareem shouted. The night erupted. Shells screamed through the air, slamming into the Titan's chest. Explosions lit the sky. Rockets streaked from shoulder launchers. Bullets poured in endless streams. The fire Titan staggered, not from pain, but from irritation. It looked down, its molten jaw opening. Then it roared. The sound was not sound, it was pressure, a shock wave of molten fury. Windows shattered miles away. Soldiers dropped, blood running from their ears. Flames erupted where no fuel existed, ignited by sound alone. Still, the line held. Omar charged. The spear blazed like a miniature sun in his grip. His feet pounded across scorched asphalt, every step defying heat that would have killed lesser men. His muscles strained, his lungs burned, but his eyes locked on the impossible height of the Titan. The Colossus raised its arm, a molten hammer descending. Omar leapt, the ground shattering beneath where he'd stood. He landed on the Titan's arm, his skin blistering instantly. With a roar, he drove the spear downward, carving through molten rock like paper. A stream of fire erupted, spraying across the battlefield. The Titan staggered. For the first time, it bled. The soldiers saw, and belief turned into frenzy. IT bleeds. IT can be killed. They surged forward, firing with renewed fury. Tanks advanced into lava streams, treads melting, but cannons still blazing. Drones dove like insects, peppering weak points. Kareem barked orders, his voice hoarse, his chest ready to burst. Push forward. Cover Omar. If he climbs, you shoot what he can't reach. But the Titan was not blind. It swung its other arm, swatting Omar like an insect. He flew across the battlefield, smashing through a half-collapsed building. Dust and fire swallowed him. The soldiers froze, hope flickering. Amina screamed from the command truck, Omar. The Titan turned, molten eyes blazing triumph. And then the rubble shifted. Omar rose. His body was torn, bleeding, skin burned raw. Yet he stood, dragging the spear free from cracked concrete. His voice thundered. You'll have to burn the world to ash before I fall. He sprinted forward once more, fire trailing behind him. The Titan reacted. Its jaw opened wide, a core of searing light building within his chest. The ground shook as heat condensed into a weapon, a beam of living fire. Kareem's voice cracked with terror. Scatter, scatter. The beam fired. It was a sun unleashed. Entire blocks of the city melted in an instant, soldiers vanishing into light. Tanks dissolved into molten metal. The Nile itself boiled, steam erupting like an explosion. When the light faded, silence reigned. Dozens were gone, but Omar still ran. His skin blistered, his body half-charred, yet the spear still blazed in his grip. He hurled himself upward, leaping onto the Titan's leg. With impossible strength, he began climbing, embedding the spear again and again into molten flesh, using it as both weapon and ladder. The Titan roared, shaking, clawing at him. But Omar refused to fall. Every thrust of the spear burned new symbols into his skin. Every wound carved fire into his soul. The soldiers watched, mouths open, as one man scaled a living apocalypse. Kareem's voice rose again, hoarse but unyielding. Look at him. That's not a god, it's a man. Our man. If he can climb, we can fight. Push forward, damn you. Fight with everything you have. And they did. Mortars thundered. Artillery boomed. Jets screamed overhead, strafing with missiles. The desert lit up in a storm of fire and steel. The Titan staggered again. Not much, but enough. And still Omar climbed, nearing its chest, where molten light pulsed brightest. The Titan's heart. Amina stood on the truck, tears streaming, her voice breaking as she whispered, please, please survive this. But even she knew, Omar wasn't climbing to survive. He was climbing to kill. Far below, the soldiers formed a wall of flesh and fire, holding back the Titan's rage. And above, one man carved a path into a god. The fire Titan bellowed, its roar shaking the ruins. But Omar's voice roared louder. Humanity is the fire that never dies. The fire Titan's roar tore through the ruins, its molten body shuddering as Omar clung to its chest. The spear burned white-hot in his hands, its tip vibrating with the energy of something more than metal. He had climbed higher than any man had a right to climb. The soldiers below watched in awe and terror. The battlefield had become a furnace. Men fell where they stood, burned by heat alone. Tanks were slag heaps, helicopters raining down in smoking wreckage. Yet every eye still lifted upward, to the lone human crawling across the body of a god. The Titan raised its arms to tear him away. Molten claws scraped against its own body, desperate to crush the parasite that defied it. Omar didn't stop. His skin blistered, splitting open in sheets. His breath came ragged. Blood hissed into steam as it touched the Titan's flesh. But his grip never faltered. The heart pulsed before him now. A cavern of molten light in the Titan's chest, glowing through cracks in its stone armor. Each beat sent shock waves through the air, bending steel and rattling the bones of every man on the ground. Omar planted his feet against the Titan's ribs and raised the spear with both hands. For humanity. He drove it down. The spear pierced. The sound was not of metal meeting flesh. It was a shriek, a tearing scream, as if the earth itself were being ripped apart. The Titan convulsed. Its roar became a howl of pure rage. Fire erupted from the wound, a geyser of molten light blasting skyward. Omar was swallowed in it. For a heartbeat, he vanished, his body engulfed in flame. The soldiers gasped. Amina's scream echoed across the battlefield. Omar! But the fire did not consume him. It clung to him, wrapping around his arms, his chest, his face. Symbols burned across his skin, the same hieroglyphs that had lit on the pyramid weeks ago. The spear pulsed in his grip, its glow now unbearable. The Titan staggered backward, slamming into ruins, sending shock waves through the desert. The ground split. Rivers of lava poured into the Nile. And still, Omar stood in its chest, buried to the waist in molten fire. The soldiers saw it. For the first time, the fire Titan bled in torrents, flames pouring out like lifeblood. Its steps faltered. He's doing it. The Titan is falling. Kareem lifted his rifle and screamed until his throat tore. All units, pour everything you have into that wound. Cover him. Missiles streaked. Shells thundered. Every weapon fired at once, hammering into the Titan's cracked chest. The monster reeled, its body breaking, its flames faltering. But it was not dead yet. The Titan shrieked, its voice splitting stone. It drew back one final time, gathering all its molten fury into its core. Light blazed through its body, brighter than the sun. Amina gasped. It's going to explode. Kareem's face turned pale. He knew what that meant. If the Titan detonated here, the Nile Valley itself would vanish in fire. Millions would die. The soldiers froze in horror. But Omar's voice cut through the terror. Even from above, even half consumed by molten fire, his roar echoed like thunder. If you fall with me. He wrenched the spear deeper. The Titan screamed. Its body convulsed, flames bursting in every direction. The explosion began. Light swallowed everything. For miles, the desert turned to glass. Buildings melted to nothing. Soldiers were thrown like leaves in a storm. The night sky burned white. And then silence. When the dust settled, the fire Titan was gone. Its body lay broken, half collapsed into molten rubble. Flames flickered and died across its corpse. The battlefield glowed red with heat, but the Colossus no longer moved. It was dead. A cheer erupted from the survivors. Men wept openly, throwing down their rifles to embrace each other. Kareem fell to his knees, his chest heaving, tears cutting through soot. We killed a god. For the first time, they believed it. But then, silence again. Because Omar was not there. The Titan's chest was a blackened crater. The spear lay buried deep, glowing faintly. But of the man who had driven it home, there was no sign. Amina stumbled forward, her legs barely holding her. She fell to her knees in the ash, her hands clawing through molten rubble. No, 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 no. Omar. The soldiers lowered their heads. The desert wind carried only ash. For a moment, victory felt like death. But then, the ground trembled. The Titan's corpse shifted. Cracks split open. Light began to pulse once more from within. The cheers died instantly. Soldiers raised weapons in terror. No, Kareem whispered. It's not dead. The corpse shook violently, stone and fire splitting apart. Something moved inside, not the Titan, but something else. And then, from the cracked chest, Omar emerged. Not burned, not broken, transformed. His body glowed faintly, covered in seared hieroglyphs that pulsed with light. His eyes blazed gold. The spear in his hand was no longer stone, but pure fire, its form alive, vibrating with power. The soldiers fell silent, staring at him in awe. Even Kareem, hardened by war, lowered his weapon, his mouth open. Amina gasped, tears streaming, half in terror, half in relief. Omar. He stood tall on the corpse of a god, and his voice, calm but unshakable, carried across the battlefield. This was not the last. The fire was only the beginning. Far away, the desert wind carried another sound. A howl. Deep, guttural, ancient. The soldiers stiffened. Kareem cursed under his breath, because they all recognized it. The wolf titan. Alive. Hunting.